Hey guys! Welcome back to another episode of Art on a Thursday, where we get creative every single Thursday here on this channel. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to paint one of Vincent van Gogh's famous sunflower paintings with acrylic paint step by step. It's actually easier than it seems. The first thing we want to do is attaching some washi tape all around the paper so we get a nice white frame later, and you know how much I love washi tape and how pretty the white frame looks in the end. Next, we want to outline the general shapes of the painting using a pencil. Sketch out the line in the lower fourth of the page and the vase with a more curvy shape at the middle and place it almost at the center of the horizontal line. And since we absolutely don't have to focus on any details just yet, we just want to create circles and ovals wherever the sunflowers are. We just need to know where to paint each sunflower later. Be sure to look at the reference pictures so you know where to add the shapes. And once we create the general shapes, we are ready to paint. Let's start with the background first. For the upper part of the background, we are going to need a light turquoise shade of acrylic paint. So I mixed some blue, yellow, and white colored acrylic paint until I was happy with the shade. If it's too blue, add a little bit more yellow to the mixture, and if it's too dark, add more white colored acrylic paint until you get the desired shade of color. And once you're happy with the shade, take your brush and start applying the paint thickly to the paper, one brush stroke at a time. I would recommend to use a flat brush for this because it creates a really nice texture, but you can also achieve a similar effect by using a big round brush as well. Add a small rectangle vertically and then horizontally to create this square shape pattern. As you might know, Vincent was famous for his thick use of paint. His brush strokes were more visible and created an extra element of texture once the paint was dry. And this is what we want to achieve in this painting as well. Add the paint thickly, one brush stroke at a time, creating this thick texture while changing the movement of the brush from vertical to horizontal. You can also add a little bit of white and blue paint from time to time to make the background look even more interesting. Cover every part of the background and don't forget some parts that are in between the circles. Now it's time to create the area below. Here I mixed some yellow ochre with yellow acrylic paint and applied the paint the same way as I did for the background. You don't have to mix the colors perfectly, as having different shades of paint on the brush will create a really nice pattern. We want to have some parts to be more bright and some areas darker. Here you can also mix in some more white paint to it to make some areas even brighter. For the vase, you can also use all the different colors we have prepared. For the lower part, I used some of the light turquoise colored paint and mixed it with a little bit of the yellow paint together. And for the top part, we just need a little bit of the yellow paint that we mixed with a light ochre paint. Apply the paint the same way as we did for the background. The fun part of painting this painting is that you don't have to blend anything super carefully. Here you can really have fun applying the paint rather loosely and messy while creating a really nice texture and pattern. You can also add a few light reflections to the upper part of the vase using watercolour paint, but it's not really that necessary now, as we will go back to the step anyway once you painted the main areas of the artwork. And now we can finally start painting the actual sunflowers. To create the flowers, I will be using different shades of ochre, yellow, and dark brown colored acrylic paint and a thin brush. For now, we want to create a darker base for the petals. Now, to create the sunflowers, don't focus too much on details. As we created these circles and ovals in the beginning, you can now use those guidelines and add the petals one by one following the shapes you created. Again, don't forget to look at the reference picture so you know where to place the petals. They don't have to have a perfect shape. As you can see, I added the petals one by one using yellow and light ochre colored paint and made the petals look rather messy. As both shades are on my brush, they will automatically create a few wrinkles to the petals. And for now, we just need to create the general shape, as we will add more details later. 3 of those sunflowers had a darker center, so here I used a dark brown colored paint. By the way, I added a complete list of all the color shades I used in this painting in the description box down below in case you're wondering or interested in that, so check it out. With the leftover paint on my brush, I also painted the stems to create the base layer so we can add more details later once everything is dry. And from here you want to do the same with the other sunflowers. The two flowers below are rather dark and have no petals on them, so here you just want to create these base colors using a light ochre color and add texture using brown color paint by dabbing the brush onto the first layer of paint. Don't forget to paint the center as well. Here I used a little bit of light green color paint. Again, don't think too much when you paint the petals. You don't have to create each petal and make sure that every single petal is visible. Use a lighter yellow shade for a few brush strokes, add a darker shade for a few other strokes, and maybe even mix a tiny bit of watercolor paint as well to create some highlights effortlessly. Just be messy. If you look closely at his artwork, you will see all the different brush strokes and all the different shades of color. It might look messy, but as a whole it creates a beautiful sunflower with lots of details without even trying. Look at every sunflower at a time and pay attention to his brush strokes. By just dabbing the paint onto the paper, you can create a really nice texture that looks similar to the original painting. Don't forget that all these brush strokes build up the texture of the sunflowers. By mixing different colors of ochre, yellow, and brown, we automatically create a wide spectrum of different shades. If you didn't know yet, Vincent used all the different color shades to express the entire lifespan of the flowers. When you look at the bright yellow shades, these symbolize the full bloom. But when you look at the darker brown and ochre colors, they symbolize the wilting and dying blossoms. And here we want to capture that one brush stroke at a time. Some flowers still have a little bit of green leaves around them, so here you can use the same yellow shades and mix it with your blue tones. This is how it looks so far. And now it's time to add more details. Since we create the first layer using darker tones, we will use some brighter colors and add them on top to create more details. Here I mixed some yellow with white acrylic paint to make it look more pastel and also more opaque. And with this color, I went over every sunflower and created a second layer the same way. Don't cover up everything, we still want the darker shades to look through. I read that his sunflowers paintings were actually even brighter, but unfortunately they lost their colors throughout the years, so I wonder how his paintings looked back then. Once you added the second layer of paint to each flower, we can move on and add even more details. As you can see, the sunflowers on the reference picture have a few green leaves looking through some of the petals, and this is what we're going to do now. So here I mixed some green color paint using the colors I had on my palette and added a few lines here and there while looking at the reference picture. There's also a little bit of green on the vase, so I added a little bit of paint there as well. And as you can see, the sunflowers have a few lighter dots in the center of each flower, so here we can use some lighter shades of color and add those dots by dabbing the brush around the center like that. And now we can finally add the finishing touches and we are done. Now we need to outline the vase, the table, the sunflowers and their stems using a darker shade of brown colored paint. Do this slowly and carefully, but don't stress about making a perfect straight line or anything. As you can see, his lines weren't perfect either. And now all we have to do is applying some light reflections to the vase and we're done. Here I used watercolor paint and applied the paint the same way as on the background, following the triangle shape that you can see on the reference picture. And now the time has come and we can finally remove the washi tape to reveal the finished painting. If you notice that you still have some white spots around your sunflowers, you can simply go over with a thin brush and use your leftover blue colored paint that we mixed earlier. And we're done! Now you can sign his name or your name to the vase and the painting is finished. As you can see, there are so many different ways how to create beautiful paintings, and Vincent's is by far one of my favorites. If you like this video and found it helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up to support this channel, it will mean a lot to me. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and to turn notifications on by clicking on the bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video on Thursdays and on Saturdays. Thank you so much for watching guys, have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!